I don't typically intro things that I'm doing outside. However, in this particular case, we did the metal on this 88 some Anvils ago, and now it's time to do the wood. So why am I outside equipped with t-shirt, old, stained, Mark 1, Mod 0? There's some Dawn in this bucket, and I just wanted to start this out outside today. So that's a t-shirt soaked in Dawn, and I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to commit what most people think is sacrilege, and we're just going to, with some soap, we're going to start cutting the outside of this stock down. Don't use a steel wool here. This rag is plenty abrasive. Okay, and all we're going to do is attempt to get this layer of schmutz off the outside of this thing. And as we're doing this, you can even see it here. It's starting to come back. We don't want to do this with steel wool because what I want to take are the fats and the oils from the hand contact that's been on this stock for years. And you can see it's starting to come off on the rag here. You do this outside because it makes a mess when you do it. Now, what we're not doing is we're not dunking the stock in the water. I'm getting it wet. We'll take it inside, dry it off, hit it with a hairdryer. It'll never know it happened. But I'm trying to avoid dunking the end grain in. There's a couple other things. You've got to set yourself up so that when you commit to doing this, you can commit to drying it off inside. We'll go back in and we'll dry it off inside. But you can see, and the other reason why we're out here, we just did that fade because half of Berkeley County decided to drive by while I was talking. The reason why we're out here is because I wanted the sunlight to be able to shine on this grain, and you can see there's some curls starting to come in it. Even near the, even into World War I, the Germans were still making some pretty nice looking equipment. Okay, so we'll just give this a good scrubby dubby. This only works if the stock had never been refinished before. If it's got a layer of like a modern urethane on it, you got to just scrape it off and go down to bare wood and start over again. But this still has its original linseed oil on that. And we'll see that when we go in and start steaming up the dents, that there'll be like white craze lines. We've done this before to other guns. Okay, well, we're just going to make the assumption here that I've done this whole forend, and I'm going to cut to the chase. So what's going to happen? We want to get the soap off of it because we're going to get oil near it later. Now, what I'm doing scares the hell out of people. You just got to go ahead and do it. But you also have had to have previously made the arrangements to hot air or hair dryer all this water off this thing right away, or you will screw it up if you leave it wet. All right, I'm going to finish this out, and we'll meet you back at the workbench. We're inside now, and this is a fresh t-shirt, old, stained, one each. Always specify your unit of issue. There was a gentleman on my submarine that ordered what he thought was a gross of Kim wipes. Well, I'm going to tell you what, the unit of issue on Kim wipes was gross. So he just measured and ordered a gross of Kim wipes. We now had enough paper towels bought out of the Key West Optar to cover the entire pier of 10 submarines for a year. Always check your unit of issue. Okay, so all I'm doing now is quickly just wiping this down and getting the gross water off of it. Okay, because I don't want to set it up in a vise wet. And then we can come in. It doesn't have to be a heat gun. You can do this with a hairdryer. But you just come in, you don't want to burn the wood, and you don't want to bring all the oil to the surface. All we're doing here is just, you can see that water just drying out. And I'll come, okay, Bruno's panning down. I don't know what all this is. I don't know what that is. That looks like a little bit of dry rot. So in the comments on the video about the metal, I had a gentleman say this gun was weird because the screws came right out of it, but it looked like it had 140 years worth of wear on it. And I think what he was asking was, am I faking these recoveries? And the answer is no, I'm not faking these. You're getting it raw with the bark on it. I'm not. I don't have to make this stuff up. The stuff that I'm doing is really, 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 really hurting. Okay. All right. So we've gotten the gratuitous water off the outside of this. Air nozzle, please. Yes. Bruno's going to hand me the air nozzle here because what I want to do is... I'm just gently... See, this is all oil up in here. That's okay. What I don't want to do is blow up inside, pressurize the wood, and have it blow a scab off. So I'm just being real gentle here. Okay, I'm just going to leave this right here till I find somebody that cares. All right. I did not take the cross bolt out because I didn't want the rubbing up and down. I didn't want to grab a piece of end grain and pop something off right here. We didn't get enough water on it to worry about it, and I'll get it warm enough and I'll drive everything out. We'll be good. So the next thing we want to do is steam the dents out of this thing. And I'm going to tell you what, we got a crazy number of dents in this. So if I come down here and cross like this, you can see serious dents here and here. So what we'll do is we're going to do a camera reposition so we can look at this a little bit better. But we're going to work the dents in this area of the stock from about here to here. And I want to show you what it takes to get something that big up, if it can be brought up at all. All right, I found a particularly deep dent in this thing, and we'll focus on that dent right there. If the fibers of the wood haven't been torn, if that's just a compression dent, we might actually have the ability to take a terry cloth towel that is all cotton. Don't do what I'm doing right now with a synthetic rag, because if you do that, you'll melt the rag and it'll get ugly. And then we'll have to undo plastic off the outside of an 1888 Guevara, which is a definitely on commission rifle treatment. Okay, it was off a little bit. I use, like, let's say I want to get right in here. I'll take that and run it right down that groove, like that. And then, hang on a minute. This thing is heavy. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I want to run the edge of this. All right, here we go. Right down the edge there, because there's a lot more water in the edge of this. That is steam, guys. And if you don't know what latent heat of vaporization is, look it up. It takes an awful lot of energy to make water turn into steam, and it will turn around and burn the heck out of you, so don't do that. You can use a regular iron. I'm using my monocoat iron from the 1990s because it has the temerity to still work when I plug it in. But you can use anything you want. As we're coming over, we're starting to lift it up here. We got a lot more to go down here. Let's go. This rag is not just damp, it is wet. This rag is wet. It's got a lot of excess water in it because what we're trying to do is force the steam down into the wood pores and cause the pores to pop up. There we go. Yeah, we're making a little bit of headway there. Again, be very careful because you are playing with steam here. And steam will give you a nasty burn because it has so much energy in it. You can see the water coming out. Here, let me get the light a little bit different. You can see the water. Wait a minute, there it is. As I'm doing this, you can actually see the water coming out, and the wood gets wet on the uphill side, and then you'll see the water start to pull back as it evaporates off. All right, let me get this light up out of the way. There we go. Now we're making headway. So as you can see here, we're getting a lot of it there. So we just keep doing that up and down the entire gun. We're going to do a camera move here and come over here to this little area of schmutz. What this system will not do is put back wood that's been physically removed, and it's not particularly good on sharp-edged dents. It is, however, good on dull dents, like when Mr. Budweiser allows your shotgun barrel to just slide over and hit the edge of your tailgate. Okay. Well, as you can tell, this takes a significant amount of time to do an entire gun. It'll probably take you 30 to 45 minutes. You can get an entire audio tape in. You can listen to an entire lesson on your CDs and learn things while you're working. All right. Let the iron charge back up. This iron doesn't have a lot of mass to it, so we will run it out of, you'll run it out of gas here. You got to let it fill the iron back up with heat. You can see it lifted that right there. That entire dent came up. So you see the cut lines there. We're not going to be able to do anything with those cut lines, okay? This stuff right here, we're not going to be able to do anything with that. But that huge dent that was right there that's represented by this dark spot, that popped right up. So we just keep going all the way down this stock, and we'll come all the way down this stock, and then when we're done, we'll come back and dry it off once and then lightly steel wool it. And I think you will be surprised at how good this thing looks. Right there, you see that nick right there? That is not a dent in the stock. That is a stock cartouche. That was created the same way dents are created. Somebody put an inspector's mark on that and whacked it with a hammer. This is not a dent. So make damn sure you know where all of the stock cartouches are supposed to be. Go look for them, identify them, and keep this iron as far away from this stuff as you can physically get it. I've done all the steaming now. I've got this whole stock steamed, and I want to use this little section of the stock here as our test thing, all right? There are a bunch of dents and cuts and nicks in this that could easily be sanded out with some 125, some 220, and we'd be there. We have the original linseed oil still soaked into the wood, and the pores are not filled. I mean, if you look here, you can see the pores, the individual pores. They look like streaks going from left to right. The pores are open on this gun, as opposed to, say, this one. And I'm going to see if I can even get this in frame here. Okay, here we go. See, as I'm rolling that through the light, you can't see anything because this gun has had the living bejeebers sanded out of it. This is a K98AC. That is the stable mate of the other one that we did, not the one that we did. This one's been sanded down and all the pores have been filled. And the way you avoid that is, at the very end, we are going to do a very light steel wooling. And all we're doing is pulling. You can see a little bit of dust getting kicked up here. We are not scrubbing on this. We're just doing a light knocking down the surface because some of the wood did stand up. But what we do not want to do is use any abrasives when we get the oil open. All right? When we get the oil open in this thing, and I'm just going to use a chip brush here, and I'm using a dark Danish oil just because this thing needs to come down a couple of clicks. It's a bit loud, and I'll go back and do the rest of it later. But the entire stock is done this way. Just one coat of oil, and all we're doing is nourishing the wood here. And we'll let it stand up on a surface wet for a little while, and then come back in and just rub it out and make a little bit of heat. Okay? And that's all we're going to do. Now, ordinarily, we let this oil stand, and I will, but I'm going to rub this oil off just so that the rest of the gun stays with it. But by the time we get done rubbing this out, we're going to see that this wood has a beautiful sheen. We've nourished it, but all of the surface pores are still open on this thing. And that's why I've got it lit like this, because I want you guys to be able to see. Now, did we bring every dent up to the top? No. We're really not able to do that. If the wood's been damaged, it won't come up. If it will, it will. And we've saved the original finish with another coat of just more oil. There's a passage in a book that I want to show you guys. That book I just showed you is this thick. And this was a book written about how to make the 1903 Springfield, and it's that thick. And in this entire book, there is one passage. Operation 30, oil. Number of operators, 1. Description of operation, operator dips stock in boiled linseed oil, lets it drain. Wait for it. And then places it in a rack to dry overnight. That's it in this entire freaking book. That's all the U.S. military did to their gun stocks. They dipped them in oil once. It does not say dip sand, dip wet in, dip, use the stock filler, and polish to an incredible sheen. Nope, that's what they look like, brother. Beautiful night for a smoke, no? 1888 commission rifle. This particular one was built in 1890 and has never been modified, all right? So we're going to run this because we spend a lot of time with a new bolt head, with new internals, and then we've just stripped all of the gack off the outside of the stock and refinished it in a way that it would have been finished originally. This gun had a lot of weaknesses, but the biggest weakness it had was the Von Mannlicher packet loading system. It requires a lot of dexterity to get it in exactly the right spot, and it has to be exactly the right width, and you have to be able to put it into the click, so it's got a little set of fingers out there, and those fingers can only, it's what they went to later was to machine the feed lips into the gun, so you only had one thing you had to watch, not millions of them. But with that snaps in, we tried a bunch of times to run the gun without the spring on the bottom, and to get it to fall through, there was just a lot going on. This particular gun is pretty tight, I gotta tell you. I was about to shoot an 8 Mauser without my earplugs in, and then I had to remember where they were. If you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough. Do it on your own time. We eject, back in, down. Okay, we're down to our last round now. And what should happen is this goes in the chamber. It should pop up. And it didn't. So to get this clear, we're banging on it. We're doing all kinds of things. There were issues with this loading system. And right now, I can't reload the gun. So these repop mags we're using, here, let's see, I think I got another one here. They're reproduction mags, and they need to be tuned to the individual gun. Did they have the luxury to do that? No. There's another issue that's going to get brought up here, and that's the issue of the 323 versus 318 bore. What S on the receiver means is that the chamber is set up for a larger diameter projectile and a larger cartridge. That S doesn't say anything about the diameter of this bore. We have made some accommodations and loaded some special ammo here. This is not stock 8mm Mauser going through this gun. It's got a 319 diameter projectile in it that someone loaned me, and I think he wants them back. They're that rare. Sorry, dude, I'll go get my scuba gear. Anyway, having said that, you just have to understand what the difference between the I/J bore, the infantry Ogden bore, and an S bore at 323. But that's not what the S on a receiver bridge means. Shoot your weapon with the correct ammo. You got a lot of reading to do. Let's get back inside and outro this thing. Well, there you have it, an 1888 commission rifle. In this particular setting, we did a light reconditioning of the wood. I'm not going to call it a restoration. I'm just going to tell you we scrubbed a lot of hand oil off of it and put a coat of oil on it and nourished it without making it look like we were here. We've done a previous episode where we did all the metal on this gun, and this thing started out, it was a rag, and we were able to bring it back because the bore was decent. I will say this, if you have the requisite gunsmithing skills, or if you know somebody, the bolt head on this particular gun was made by Myers Arms. Go look him up on the internet. We're going to put his website in the description. Don't take one of these on unless you have the skills or you know a guy that's got the skills to properly headspace a high power rifle in 8 Mauser. Having said that, with his parts and a little bit of creativity, we were able to get this rig running safely and ready to jam. As always, it has been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Take care.